Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. I am your host and creator of this space. It's a space to empower and inspire women to thrive no matter their age or size. And I've got a pageant queen with me today. I have been connecting with so many wonderful queens around the world. And today I have with me Jewel Lindemann, who is from the Great White North of Canada. Say hi, Jewel.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me, Melanie.
Absolutely. And thanks for coming on here. I'm so excited to have you because I was reading about your platform, which is Grateful Givers. But let's start with, have you introduce yourself first, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of what you're doing with your title.
Awesome. Well, I'm a soon to be 25-year-old, which is like my quarter life crisis, I guess, that I'm reaching into. I'm a full-time teacher to 41 grade 2 students, not all in one class. I teach French immersion, so they're split into two. And I'm an avid reader and a fur mom. So if you're watching the episode on YouTube, you might see the animals pop up here and there. Or if you're listening, you might hear some sound effects. Those are real. Um, and I'm also getting married in September, so I'm very
Oh,
busy. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank
Yes, you're
you.
spinning a lot of plates right now, but it sounds
Yeah.
exciting.
Very exciting. I'm also completing my master's in July. I always forget that one, and then people are like, "Aren't you like doing something in school right now?" Yep. No.
And on top of all that, you're also competing in a pageant. Tell us which one that you're competing in.
I am competing for the title Miss Ontario Regional Canada in 5 weeks, or 5 weeks from the recording date. Maybe I'll be competing when this goes live. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? And it's a scholarship pageant. It's all about women empowerment. I actually just had the opportunity to attend their older division this past weekend, so the Ms. and Mrs. And just being in the room was life changing. So I was like, I cannot wait to compete and be like in the pageant, actually doing the things, because just hearing them speak, seeing all the contestants, like there was a contestant there who was 79 years old, and like her strut was better than mine. I was like, I want her to stop me. Like I want to be that when I grow up. And so I'm so excited. They focus on celebrating women from all walks of life, really highlighting how multidimensional we are, and I honestly cannot wait until June.
You said that she was 74.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That just goes to show that no matter what age you are, you can go for new goals, you can go for pageants, you can model, you can start a new business. And like the sky is the limit. So that's exciting. I
Absolutely.
did see her because I was watching some of that pageant online,
Mhm.
and I saw her and I thought, wow. I that's blows my mind. I was so inspired by her and all the women I was watching in that pageant. And just so our viewers and our listeners know, Jewel and I connected because we have a coach in common, Maria, the pageant gal, who just won the title of
Yeah.
Ms. Regional Canada, which was amazing to watch her get crowned. I was so thrilled for her. And you were there in person,
I
right?
was there. Yeah, so I have a very shaky video of me trying to film her crowning moment and then screaming and just so excited, but she has it captured, at least for all of time now, that pure excitement. And she, well, she connected us. She's connected many women worldwide, and she really inspires me to be the woman I am today in
Mhm.
pageantry, of not just settling for, oh,
Yes.
I'm just going to do the same and I'm going to fit into this mold. And instead, I'm going to celebrate who I am. I'm going to find a system that celebrates that as well and not hold myself back from it.
I love that. The fact that you decided to gamble on yourself and go for something that you really wanted to do. Have you ever done a pageant before you signed up for this?
Yeah. So I was, I don't want to say stuck, but I was with the same system for 4 different times. So I
Mhm.
competed, and it was kind of like all I knew. It was my safety net. And, there was a lot of, oh, come back. Like, we love you. And I knew the staff. I had a very good relationship with them. But like you said, was that taking that gamble on myself of like, what else is out there? And this pageant I'm actually aging out of, which is very weird because I'm like, I'm only 25. Like, I don't know. Oh no. But I'm actually like, this is my one shot at competing for Miss Ontario. And that kind of intrigued me. This idea of I have to give my all. Like I can't make excuses because this is it. This is the
Hmm.
moment that I get to shine. And I want to walk away knowing that regardless of that outcome, like I did everything in my power because that means a lot more to me than having the crown and sash.
I think that's amazing because I think, unfortunately, a lot of people who aren't really associated with the pageant world, they kind of have this perspective, this idea that pageant women, all they want is to put on the pretty crown and wear a pretty dress. And it's so much more, at least for me, and I know it is for you and a lot of the women that I've talked to who are in pageants on this channel. It's really a deepening of who you are and what you want to do to make your community better, to give
Yeah.
to causes that you believe in, and to help other women to find their purpose as well. What is it
Mhm.
that initially got you into pageantry?
It honestly was I had a dream once, like, after watching Miss USA and Miss Universe growing up, I had a dream of, like, me competing, and I remember the pageant was called Miss Beauty in my dream because that was what my, like, 11-year-old brain could come up with at the time, and I thought, "Okay, well, what does that mean?" And as an 11-year-old, I was like, "It's pretty things," like, and I like pretty things, like, who doesn't like pretty things? And it wasn't until I actually competed in my first pageant that I had that like turning point of, oh, it's not just this. Like, yeah, you get to wear awesome clothes and you get to meet awesome people, and sometimes you get a shiny tiara to put on your head, but it's so much more because in I've been in pageants now 7 years. In my 7 years, I've won two pageants, and that's it. And
But that's
so
good
that's competing.
though. That's really
Yeah, and
good.
I'm like that's still great. And I'm like, I've competed consecutively for the same title and lost, and I have never walked away feeling like I'm a loser. I got nothing out of
Mhm.
that because it's always been growth and it's always been about discovery. I started with no platform, no idea what a platform was or what it meant to have like a purpose that was larger than yourself. And here I am 7 years later with an international platform. We just reached 100 women in my sisterhood today, like
Wonderful.
minutes before the call. And, such a clear connection between my, platform, my career, every aspect of my life that brings together who I am as a woman.
So let's talk about Grateful Givers. How did you come up with the idea, and what is it that you are hoping to do with this platform?
Yeah. So my grandmother growing up was a pillar in the community. She was one of those people that she could walk down a side of a road and everyone would know her. And it amazed me because I'm very introverted. And I was like, I don't know how you know this many people. And the reason was because she was always active.
Mm.
And she was always active in her French community, in the church, different, communal spaces where she was able to give back in, her energy and her time. She helped build the French Community Center in Cambridge from the ground up, quite literally, to create that space for others. And so growing up watching her, I was like, okay, well, this is normal. Like, this is what I've grown up
Mhm.
with. And then when she passed away from cancer, I remember all the family comes late to the church, and there was a lineup out the door. Like there were cars on the street, there were people trying to get in that could not get seats. And that
Wow.
was how far her reach had spread. Even though, she didn't have the most money, she didn't have social media at the time, like she reached hundreds of people.
Mm.
But that was my aha moment of like, oh, wait, like just being nice, just doing something you like is enough to create that ripple effect. So I started volunteering. What I started seeing was that people were volunteering just because they felt like they had to. They didn't really feel that connection with something larger than themselves. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to build that bridge between, you want to volunteer
Yeah.
and you're making a difference and creating that bridge because I know so many women who know exactly what they want to do but they don't feel like they truly are making that impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that really is that missing piece that I know sometimes when you are trying to build something, it can feel very isolating because it's your
Mhm.
project, it's your baby. But
Yes.
eventually you start seeing how that little piece makes a difference for someone else. And then
Mhm.
it makes a difference for another person and another person. And sooner or later, people know what you're doing and like, oh, you're part of that project. How can I help? It's those little things that just start coming together. So
Mhm.
what's something that you're proud of with your platform? What's something that you feel like, oh my God, yes, this is really making a difference? What's your proudest moment so far?
So far, I mean, from like 10 minutes before the call, I actually created a sisterhood, an online sisterhood, and I founded it last year. And instantly we had 10 members. And I was like, great, this is fantastic. And then we sat all year with 10 members. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess people don't want to be a part of it. And that's what I find we get in our heads. We make
Mhm.
meaning of things and we're like, oh, guess this wasn't meant to be. So I decided, like, no, what does it look like when I trust myself, when I go all in for me? And instead of pleasing others, having that people pleaser mindset, what would the sisterhood look like if it was my safe space and creating that safe space for everyone? So I rebranded in January and I said my goal is to get to 100 women, which seemed unattainable because I was at 10. And I was like, that's 10 times the amount. And as of literally like moments before the call, we reached 100 women internationally, and it's April 30th at the time. So like
That's
4 months into the
amazing.
year. Yeah.
So what was the shift that you made to make that 100 take place? What's something you did differently then?
I mean, I was talking with Maria a lot about how she said when you show up for yourself, like you show up differently for everyone else.
Hmm.
Because when you are constantly in the state of, this is what other people want me to do, this is what is expected, nobody is ever going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. It's
Yeah.
not going to feel great. And no matter what, there's going to be haters. There's going to be people who doubt you. They have their own things to work through. And so when you start showing up from that place of like, this is what I want to make a sisterhood. I want it to have events. I want it to be virtual. It was all of a sudden like a magnet. Like these people were like, yeah, I want that too. Which is funny because when I was doing what I thought they wanted, nobody was coming. But it
Hmm.
was they're
Interesting.
attracted. Yeah. I think what it is they're attracted to that authenticity. They
Yes.
know this is real. This isn't just a facade. This isn't just putting on a show. And I find that's a rabbit hole we fall down as pageant women of this platform and how should it be presented? What do people want to see? And sometimes we lose that authenticity and that piece of us, which is what makes it so special at the end of the day.
That's beautifully said. I totally agree. I found myself when I was doing my platform, it was initially called Beautifully Bold, and I found myself branding it in a way that I thought, well, this will stand out and this will get, people interested versus, well, what really speaks to me. And I
Hmm.
found that Beautifully Bold wasn't really translating as deeply as I thought it was. And since
Hmm.
I rebranded to Fearless and Fabulous, suddenly it's taken a life of its own. So it's
Yeah.
exactly true what you're saying. Like it has to have that ring of who you are and what you're
Hmm.
trying to accomplish. So that's amazing. And congrats on getting that
Thank you.
100 sisterhood. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I know it's just going to keep on growing from there.
Absolutely. I said now, I was like, okay, we're doubling it by the end of the year because why not?
So, one of the things that I like to talk with my guests about on the podcast is how you break through fears in order to become fabulous. So, what's a challenge or a fear? What's something that you've had to face and get through it in order to become thriving on the other end? What's something that you can think of?
First thing that comes to mind as a first year teacher was the moment before my first class walked in, September, whatever, like the first day of school. I was terrified. Nobody tells you that you're going to be sitting in that class like, holy moly, there's a bunch of second graders that are about to walk in, and like they might only be up to my hips, but they're still terrifying. Like they are mighty. And so I had this moment where I was like, I've known I wanted to be a teacher since for as long as I can remember. Like my first big gift was getting a chalkboard so I could teach my Webkins math. Like it was so clear from early age that all of a sudden I was met with this block of like, you can't do it. No, no, no. Like this is terrifying. What are you gonna do? You're on your own. And that's the thing about teaching is yes, you have an amazing dynamic of colleagues and admin and all these other people, but once that door closes to your classroom, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And I just kind of had to breathe through it and say, okay, trust the process and own the fact that you're a first year teacher because that's something that I wanted to hide almost. Like I didn't want parents to know
Mm,
I was a first year teacher because what would they think?
right.
And what would the students think? And instead of hiding that piece of me and trying to struggle through it, I just said, I am a first year teacher. And I said to my kids, like, I get to learn alongside you this year, and isn't that cool? And I normalize, making mistakes. And I find because of that, we've made such a safe environment for them to learn in because they know, like, even this 25-year-old who is our teacher and is supposed to know everything because they think I do, like, she makes mistakes. She misspells stuff. She forgets stuff. And it's okay for me to make those mistakes too. And so that's how I went from kind of hiding in that fear and almost like restraining myself to thriving because that's a piece of me. I get to learn and grow. And the truth is, I've been told by teachers who have been in the business for 25 years, like, you never stop. You never stop having that fear and that imposter syndrome. And they're like, yeah, you just gotta roll with the punches there.
That's exactly right. That's
Mhm.
so true. I'm an educator as well. And
Nice.
I teach theater, speech communications, anything dealing with those areas. And I've taught from ages 8 on up to college. And as a
Mhm,
military spouse, I've had to walk into a new classroom many, many times. And
mhm.
I completely get what you're saying that once that door closes, you're on, it's all you.
Yeah.
And I have also owned the fact that I'm new to the area, or if I'm teaching a new class to me, a type of subject I haven't really done before, I own that. And I
Mhm.
say, I'm familiar with the subject, but I've never taught it before. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to share what I know. And then together we're going to discover more things about it. And I
Mhm.
think that's just a good lesson for anybody. I
Yeah.
know that Maria has said this. Hello, Maria, again. You tell us so many great things. That you don't have to know how to do it, just do it anyway. You don't have to
Yeah,
know it all. And I've really
absolutely.
taken that to heart.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I still remember one of my first moments of, in your placements when you're becoming a teacher, there's always somebody higher up to go to. Of
Yes.
where's the teacher? What and so there was a conflict and I remember thinking, okay, where's the teacher? Who do I get? And I was like, oh no, that's me. Like I have to figure this out really quickly because I have 7-year-olds relying on me.
Exactly. It's like you really learn how to think on your feet for
Oh
sure.
yes. Absolutely.
So, what is the best part of being a teacher for you? What makes you light up?
I think it's when, those moments when they hug you, when they give you the pictures. And I do have to be honest, I hope none of my students ever hear this. I don't keep all the pictures because, like, I teach second grade, they make so many. But it's
Right.
just there is the moment of, you're so special to them that they want to make you something. They want to hug you. And even on like we all have days where I'm like, I'm an awful teacher. Like, oh, I raised my voice or that lesson didn't go as well as I wanted to. And to have a kid come up and hug me at the end of the day, it brings me
Mhm.
back down to, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Like I'm making a difference in their lives, whether or not I'm perfect, because that's something I struggle with is like, I have to have the perfect lesson. I have to
Mhm.
be perfectly patient when I'm human. And I'm teaching them, like, you're human, you don't have to be perfect. And yet I'm not always embodying that for them. So it's those moments when you can tell, like, they care about you and you are making that difference because they're always going to remember that you were their second grade teacher or that, you
Yes.
know, you did that for them. And I read a quote the one time that was, they won't remember, the lessons and how well it went, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Feel.
So yeah,
Yes. That's
at
Maya
the end of the
Angelou. Maya Angelou. That's one of my
oh,
favorite quotes too.
so at the end of the day, it's like, well, if I completely scrap a lesson and I have to redo it because it was so bad, like, who cares? They're not gonna remember that.
Right. I think
Mm.
we are our own harshest critics. It's so
Yeah,
easy to pick apart the things we did wrong versus, well, what did we actually accomplish? We don't
yeah.
focus on those things enough. We're always more focused on what went wrong. And I'm the
Mhm.
same way too, Jewel, that I have to learn how to step back and go, okay, well, what went well?
Yeah,
And we
it's
need to
hard.
celebrate those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned about the need to feel like you have to be perfect. You have to present perfectly. And I know in the world of pageantry, there could be a pressure of that. Have
Mhm.
you, like when you are doing your social media, do you ever feel you have to conform to a certain way, or how do you handle that pressure?
I definitely have felt it, and it's, an ongoing thing. I think that we're making strides in the world of social media of, like, representation and body diversity and all those lovely things, but there's still that, picture perfect life that is out there.
Mhm.
And even myself, I've been trying to show more behind the scenes, more real, like poor lighting on my stories because I'm like, I don't always have my ring light on. Like that's just the truth. Because we get fed like these highlight reels, and sometimes we
Right.
forget that these are people's peak moments. Like all my pageant photos, like those are my peak moments. That's not how I look 90% of the
Yeah.
time.
We
Like
don't
it,
roll out of bed looking like
no,
those photos.
no, like when I wear makeup, my students are like, you look different. What happened? And I'm like, that, oh, like they shouldn't notice that. So I think that's what I, ground myself with is I know a lot of women on and off social media, and I know, this is what they're posting because this is what they want to celebrate. And it's seeing it like that, like our Instagram, our Facebook gets to be our celebration, our an extension of our platform. It's not our identity. And so
Yeah.
removing that from it has released a lot of pressure about I have to be perfect because it's not my identity. It's not who I am. Like you follow me on social media, you'll see different things, but you're not going to see me in my moments with my students. You're not going to see me in my moments with my fur babies. Like you get a glimpse. And so it's
Right.
not my whole identity. And so it does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the ideal world because it's just an extension and you know, it's what I get to create as an artist almost.
I think that's such a healthy way to look at it, because sometimes I can feel myself wanting to look and present a certain way on social media, but then I have to step back and remember, okay, you don't have to be 100 all the time. That's not
Mhm.
real life. That's not why people are drawn to what you're doing. That's not
Yeah.
my brand. It's fearless and fabulous. It's
Yeah.
fearlessly showing up as who I am and being fabulous no matter what. So let
Mhm.
me ask you this, Jewel. Since we talked about the fear that you had to face, what are things that make you feel fabulous?
I love getting my nails done. If
Me too.
Yeah, I love it. My sister's actually an esthetician, so I got really lucky there because
Mm.
I'm like, you can do my nails. I always say like I'm the highest maintenance, low maintenance gal because I'm like I love getting high maintenance stuff done. And no, I don't wear makeup every day. I don't dress up, don't do my hair every day, but like it makes me feel good. And so I'm never going to shame somebody else for doing their makeup because I'm like, if you have the patience to do it every day and it makes you feel good, then I'm celebrating you. So that's like the external, I guess, of how I feel fabulous. And another way is my significant other, my fiance. He's very supportive of me. And so sometimes when I'm in those, spirals of like, oh my goodness, I'm not perfect. And I literally did it this weekend of I took a picture at the pageant I was at and I showed it to him. I was like, I look awful. Like, look at that gut, look at it. And he was like, what
Oh.
are you talking about? Like, you are beautiful.
Oh.
You are gorgeous. And I was like, okay, sometimes I need to come back to you because the way that the people who love us see us, like I wish we could see ourselves that way because like we talked earlier, like we are so harsh on ourselves.
Yeah.
And to be able to, step in their shoes and see the way that they view us because they know we're not perfect. They love us, our flaws and all, and yet they still see beauty. They still see that fabulousness. And so I think we need to learn to love ourselves like that a little bit more of like the same way you love your significant other and how when they're like, "Oh, I'm bad at this." You're like, "No, I love you for it though."
So what do you do then to love yourself, to remind yourself of how you should be loved? What's something that you do to remind yourself of that?
I love listening to pump up music, like feel good, female artists where I can dance it out and feel good. I
Yeah.
actually take different dance classes and that's helped me feel better in my body because it's like, okay, like doesn't matter how my body looks because it can still do this. It can
Mm.
dance, it can move in this way. And that's kind of what I've taken to is movement every day, dance, music, like things that celebrate what my body is doing instead of focusing on the harsh critique that we often fall into of like, oh, but that's not perfect. Oh, I have some,
Yeah.
you know, I have that there and I don't love that. It's well, my body literally carries me through life. Like I'm able bodied, I'm able to stand up and walk and breathe every day. And that's pretty fantastic because it's not
Yeah.
the case for everyone.
And I think that is such a great way to look at it too, because being able to be, well, grateful, of what you
Yeah.
have in you can walk, you can talk, you can breathe, you can move. And it's interesting you mentioned you're taking dance class. I picked up a belly dance class recently.
Ooh.
I have a dance background, but I've never done belly dancing. And one of the things that I really like is that there's no mirrors in the room where we take the
Mm,
class.
yeah.
Because from coming from a dance background, I'm very aware of how my alignment is, how my
Mm,
body looks when I'm doing things. And in that class, I can't. I just have to go how I
mm,
feel and just
yeah.
lose myself into the moment. So I I find that such a fulfilling feeling that I can just let loose and be myself. And I'm so glad you're able to find
Yeah.
that beauty
Mhm.
in your dance class. Just out of curiosity, what type of dance are you taking?
I've done heeled, so, like, more adult dancing, I would say, in high heels, which is good for my pageant walk,
Yeah.
and I'm currently doing tap dancing, which is very skill-oriented and, challenging, but I love it because I'm seeing the progress. I've been doing
Mm,
it about 9 or 10 months now, and I'm like, "Oh, I used to not be able to do that, and now I can."
that's awesome. I would love to take a heels class. That's on my bucket list.
They're so fun. I didn't wear like my big pageant heels because I was like dancing in those is not ideal, but it was more than the dance moves, more about the perfection. It was the woman in that class that made it because they're all there to have a good time. They're all there to celebrate you. And I've never ever met a dynamic like that where it's just like they're ready to hype you up. And we would do struts across the floor to warm up and they're screaming like, "Yeah, you got this." And I'm like, I need this all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's something else too that shows like Real Housewives,
Mhm.
they tend to give the perception that women are always out to get each other, that we're very competitive. And I think that's not so much the case in real life. I think most of us want to help each other, but media
Mm,
plays a big role in putting that thought in our heads.
yes.
What's been your experience with working with other women? Has it been more of an uplifting situation or have you even felt challenges? What's your experience?
I have felt that the challenges come from my own perspective and my own
Mm,
perception of it. Because, like you said, we're fed this idea that we're in competition. From a young age, it's like who's the prettiest, who are the boys gonna like, and you know, I grew up watching like things that are like, oh, how to lose a boy, or like signs he doesn't like you, or even
mhm.
being told like, oh, if a boy teases you, it means he likes you. No, it doesn't. Run, girls. Like, no. And so it was, fed to us this narrative that you're each other's competition. You're trying to compete for whatever, whether it's the affection, whether it's the place, because women haven't had equal access to those opportunities. And so, they have had to fight other women.
Yeah.
Not that they've wanted to, but like they to have a space, they've had to get there somehow. And so I've 100% will admit, like, seeing women that I'm competing against and thought, "Oh, no, she's not gonna be nice," or, like, "She's gonna not like me because of this," or "I'm jealous of this," and then I meet them, and they are the most lovely and uplifting women ever, and they're just genuinely there to support you, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love this. I saw you do this, and I was so excited," and it's like, "Oh, hold on, like, I was fed lie for this whole time," and I remember my first pageant, everyone's like, "Oh, they're gonna be catty, they're gonna be mean." Like, I read a book about pageants, and the one girl, like, put dye in the shampoo in the book, and I was like, "Never have I not trusted women that I've with to that extent." So, I think it's this false narrative that we feed ourselves like, we get fed and
Yeah.
we trap ourselves in almost, and then it's so easy to perceive actions done in that light because it's the confirmation bias of you're gonna see something and be like, "Oh, that message must be passive aggressive because it couldn't possibly just be nice." Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah.
It encourages us to put our walls up around each other.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I've had very similar experiences with like you have, Jewel. Like when I've been in pageants or in theater or in other spaces with other women, like 9 times out of 10, it's uplifting, it's
Yeah.
empowering, it's inspiring, it's collaborative. And but I feel like the tough part is breaking the ice. I think that, when you initially are in that space, is trying to take
Mhm.
down those walls and to
Absolutely.
find a collaboration. But once it happens, it's magic.
It
It's
is.
absolute magic. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful to have those opportunities and grateful to have guests like you where we can just talk
Mm,
and share our
yeah,
experiences. So
absolutely.
Jewel, we are starting to run out of time, unfortunately, and I just feel like it's just been flying by.
I
But
know.
tell us where we can find you and how we can follow your journey and learn more about Grateful Givers.
So on Instagram and Facebook, I'm at _Jewel Louise. I know you'll link that.
Absolutely.
Um, you'll have a link, but that is my, it used to be just my pageant account, and now it's just become my main account at this point. So if you want to see, behind the scene teacher things, Miss Ontario things, wedding things, because that's also on the docket, then follow me there. And then from there, you can also join the sisterhood if that is something you'd be interested in, because, now we're going for 200 women.
And I know you're going to make it. I know
Oh,
that's
yeah.
going to happen. Jewel, I love your energy. I love your light. This conversation's been amazing. And I really honestly hope we have more together
Me too.
because you have such a wonderful energy. And I need to have more of that energy in my life. I know a lot of other people do too. So everyone, please go follow her. Congratulations on all of your achievements on getting your master's, getting married soon. Good luck at the pageant. I know you're going to kill it. And
Thank you.
thank you so much again for being a guest on the Fearless and Fabulous podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's another episode, everyone. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Please let me know if there's a topic you'd like to hear more about. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Take care now.